Paul Feig. How are you?
I'm good, Anthony. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Always good to see you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of twists and turns in this, and I'm curious if you could give us a little lesson here. When you're writing something like this, do you find it in the editing room, or do you I'm just curious, when you're writing a thrill, it's got a thriller aspect.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of twists and turns. How do you surprise yourself in the writing process? How do you keep it fresh?
Well, this has been nice because I'm working with Jessica Sharzer again, who wrote the first one, and then Lita Kalgoris came on to help us too, and then also working with my producing partner, Laura Fisher, and the four of us kind of like to challenge each other on this. Because, I've never done a sequel before. I've avoided them like the plague because I think they're really hard to do. But I love these characters. I wanted to revisit this. So the feeling was just like, how do we pay forward to the fans of the first one, but not give them the same thing again? How do we take it in a more crazier direction? But how do I also take these characters out of their comfort zones and put them into a new world? Because, the reason that the first movie works and why any first movie works that is successful is because you're discovering the characters for the first time and you're being surprised by them. And sequels are hard because you know the characters. So the way to do this one was, okay, let's take Stephanie, played by Anna Kendrick, out of her comfort zone of the suburbs and throw her in a completely foreign world, literally in Italy at this very expensive wedding in Capri, and then let mayhem cut loose.
Now, what was your biggest challenge? Was it explaining Emily's return?
No, actually, Jessica Sharzer cracked that right off the bat, because when we talked to Jessica about this, we wanted to do it, and I had some ideas for the basic story that I wanted to do. I said, how do we get her out? And she goes, don't worry, I got it. And so when her first draft came in, it was just the excuse of, Emily has reconnected with an old paramour who was very rich. And of course, if you got enough lawyers, they can find some hole in your case, and at least get you out to retry it. And that's what happened. So there she was.
Now, was it always Italy? Was it always Capri?
Yeah. I've been obsessed with the wedding of Giovanna Battaglia, who is the fashion editor of Vogue, in, I think, French Vogue. And she got married to this very rich hedge fund guy a number of years ago, and they took over the entire island of Capri. And I was like, I want to recreate that wedding. I was so obsessed with it, everything they did with it. And so I was always going how do I get that into a movie? Is that Bridesmaids? What do we do? And then when this one came up and we had the idea, I was like, let's destination wedding in Capri.
But no one was murdered at that wedding.
No, they weren't. And if they did, they covered it up very well.
Yeah. What was amazing about that wedding that made you say, oh my God? Just
the fact that the scope of it was so big and so over the top, and the fact that they went out to that the lighthouse, that outer point, and I didn't even realize, because I just looked at it, I thought they did it on the hillside there. So we went out to scout it. We realized it's all rocks. And so we contacted, we went and looked at all the pictures, and then we found out they built a scaffolding out there. And then we contacted the actual company that did it and had them build kind of a different one, but the same type of structure for us. So that's why this wedding is out on this point. And it's so fantastic. I mean, I'm a maximalist, and I'm getting more so as my career goes on. I just want things to be over the top and kind of believable, but as far as you can push them to believability and still let them, be fun and real.
Were you inspired by any films in making this?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, the first movie was so much fun that I just kind of used that first movie as my touchstone. I'm not a filmmaker who goes and kind of, when I'm prepping for a movie, studies similar movies. I almost turn off looking at movies, because look, they're all in my head anyway. I've seen so many movies, but I don't want to willfully copy something. I'm always trying to think, what can we do this a little different, or try to find our way. And honestly, I just let the characters drive all our creativity, and what would the characters do. And so I want to be service to them, not in things that have been done before. Not that anything is original, but
Blake and Anna play off so well.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, going back, was that something that was instantaneous that they had, or was that something you had to build as a filmmaker in terms of prepping?
No, they've always had this chemistry ever since the first day together on the very first movie. It just, something clicked with them, and the characters they're playing, it worked for that too, because they're kind of frenemies, but but they have this very friendly dynamic between them. And, they would be off, when we wouldn't be shooting, they'd be off sitting together, just chatting away and stuff. And I loved it. And then when they got on screen, that chemistry just came through immediately. So, no, I just would always kind of marvel, like, wow, they really work well together. We have that scene in the pool in the new one. That was like the third day of shooting. And they fell back into those characters. And it was so wonderful. Like, they were bonding so much in that. And Anna's playing drunk, which there's nothing funnier than Anna playing drunk. And I was just like, I was looking at Laura Fisher, my producing partner, going like, wow, we are back.
Did you intentionally have that as the first day of shooting? Because that was a good icebreaker.
No, it was all driven by the location, because we shot our first week and a half in Capri, and at the Quincy Sun Hotel before the season was just about to open up. The G7 was coming in, so it cut our time there short. So we had to push everything in Capri to a week and a half, and so we had to heat up that pool because it was really cold at that point. I promised them that pool was going to be like bathtub, so it took days to get it hot. So it was all worked within the schedule. So I was like, I'm so sorry, you guys, you got this big scene. It's only like our second or third day in, and they just nailed it.
So, question for you about comedy in general: is it harder to do on the screen nowadays than it used to be? Like, could you make Bridesmaids today?
I don't know, to be perfectly honest. And it's because audiences have gotten very suspicious about comedy, straight up comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so much comedy now exists in mixed genres. Horror is the new comedy. Most horror movies you look at are very funny, or they have really funny stuff in them. I think audiences at the moment look at straight up comedy as being either frivolous or we're trying to pull something over on them. And I think audiences need stakes and they need realism. Mm-hmm. Even if something's pushed or over the top, they have to believe anything that is extreme. And comedy has generally been, you kind of got to buy into, like, this world's a little nutty, I always try to avoid that with my comedies, but at the same time, movies like Bridesmaids and The Heat and Spy, those are comedies that have a dramatic core to them, and I always kind of structure them like a drama. But I think, look, I say all this and then somebody's going to come up with like an outrageous, wacky comedy and
right,
go through the roof. But, when I made Jackpot,
mm-hmm,
I just want to do a straight up crazy Jackie Chan style comedy. And, the critics really took me over the rocks for it, because they were like, they thought it was a lost opportunity to do social commentary. I'm like, you guys, I don't want to do social commentary. I want to make a big, funny action movie, because I do like the days when you could just go like, I just want to turn my brain off and watch something that's really silly and over the top and filled with physical gags, but then has an emotional heart. And, I don't know where people are with those right now.
Was there an option for this to possibly go theatrical?
Well, no, I mean, our deal was always for streaming on this. Always.
Mm-hmm.
There's moments you go like, oh gosh, I wish we could be theatrical, because, we play so well in front of an audience, as you saw last night. But, it's also a great streaming movie. When I made the first A Simple Favor, even though we did really well in theaters, I remember in the aftermath going like, I wonder if I should have made this for streaming, because it's that kind of movie you want to cozy up with. And the fact that it really took on a giant life afterwards on streaming. But, the scope of this is big. But no, this has always been supposed to be a streaming movie. And that's why I look forward to doing things like South by Southwest, and having audiences watch it together.
What's next?
I just finished production on The Housemaid with Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried and Brendan Sklenar. And very excited about that one. We just wrapped it a week and a half
That's
ago.
at Christmas. That's
Christmas release. So I have 2 movies coming out this year.
That's fantastic.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Well, very good.